Hi, this is Randall here in Texas.
And I'm Matt, here in Michigan. Today, Randall and I are taking a look at a new film that's currently out in theaters and on HBO Max. It is Cry Macho. Cry Macho is based on the book of the same name by N. Richard Nash and stars Clint Eastwood, Dwight Yoakam, Natalia Travin, and Eduardo Minette. Clint Eastwood is also directing the film, and he has a long list of credits to his name, including Jersey Boys, Invictus, Gran Torino, and Million Dollar Baby. Now, before we go any further, if you like this review, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notifications on our latest videos.
In Cry Macho, we see former rodeo star Mike Milo asked by his longtime friend and former employer to go down into Mexico and bring back his estranged son. The son's mother, though, has powerful connections within Mexican law enforcement and would much rather that Mike not succeed in his quest. It had about a $33 million budget, and it's come out to mixed to average critical response and pretty much average audience response. If you've seen this, you might be thinking, Randall's obviously going to do a Cars and Movies segment, but if I did, it'd be the entire review. So, no Cars and Movies segment. Instead, we're going to do a little bit of history. This is an interesting backstory film. The original premise of it was actually written as a screenplay, which was denied by 20th Century Fox. So then, N. Richard Nash turns the screenplay into a novel. That doesn't happen very often. The novel sees some pretty good success, and without changing a single word on the screenplay as it's reported, he then shops this back around to multiple studios, and who should pick it up? 20th Century Fox. So, this movie, which was originally a screenplay, turned into a book, turned back into the same exact screenplay, was originally supposed to come out and be made sometime around the 1988 term, starring Clint Eastwood. Well, that makes perfect sense. But Clint Eastwood says, you know what? I've decided that I would rather go back and do a little bit more Dirty Harry. So he goes and reprises his role as Dirty Harry. So the movie's put on hiatus for a little bit until about 1991, where they actually start filming in Mexico with Roy Schneider in the lead role. But that film never goes anywhere, so it's kind of put into production, purgatory for a while. And 2003 rolls around. We're going to be making a Cry Macho film. Arnold Schwarzenegger is presented with the option of doing a Westworld remake or Cry Macho. And Arnold Schwarzenegger says, I'd rather do Cry Macho. Okay, cool. Arnold Schwarzenegger's our new leading man. Then there's a recall election in California, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is elected as the governor of California. So the movie's again put on hiatus. This is crazy. 2011 finally rolls around. He's no longer governor. We're gonna make Cry Macho, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh, there's a scandal? Oh, okay. Well, now that Arnold Schwarzenegger had a scandal, we can't make Cry Macho with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, 2020 rolls around, and Clint Eastwood finally feels that it's time to revisit the project, and we get this version of Cry Macho now that Clint Eastwood feels he's the appropriate age for it. Thank you for joining me on that small history of Cry Macho. Matt, having watched this version that finally got made, what did you think of it?
For me, it's an okay film. That's pretty much what I got. It was pretty entertaining stuff, but I don't think it really left me with any big, lasting impressions and stuff. And Clint Eastwood's Clint Eastwood, but I would have been interested to see if Clint Eastwood had done this movie, 10, 20 years ago, how it would have looked then, or, when he originally wanted to do this, even longer than that, 40 years ago or so. So yeah, that is my general thoughts on Cry Macho. What do you think, Randall?
I generally agree. Like, it's kind of missing the feels, as I would say it. It doesn't leave me feeling anything particularly strongly about any of the characters in the film. It's almost like you take a slice of life film like you would get with, some more eclectic directors, but instead it doesn't have any of that eclectic stuff in it, and it doesn't have all of the feels in it. It's just one more story in this character Mike's life. his long, illustrious life, and this is just another part of it, basically. So it's okay as a movie, but it's not really doing anything super special for me as a movie.
I'm kind of going back and forth on the lessons our characters are learning or kind of like supposed to learn in this one, and with how we've like built up to like this ending. I don't know if the ending really satisfies anything for me. I guess it's kind of like a half. I guess I'm kind of happy for like one character, but of our other like main character of this, this group of, Clint Eastwood and this teenager or whatever, I'm only really happy, I guess, at the end for like one, and I really don't know how to feel about the other one. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. That was like my last impression of this film, and I've said before, a lot of times that ending really helps set how you feel about this film, and to me, this one, I'm just like, okay, it's whatever.
Yeah, they gave you a Captain America ending to this. The plot in this is what really gets me. That's what bothers me. Is I could have bought this as, an ex rodeo star, ranch hand, Clint Eastwood doing this when he was 20 years younger. Say in his 70s. You're still a fairly old man, but I have trouble believing that anyone's going to say go up to their 90-year-old longtime friend and say, "Hey, I need you to go into Mexico for me and retrieve my son from my crazy, not ex-wife, my crazy, ex-lover, whatever, mother of my son." And it's like, dude, I'm 90. I had trouble like buying into that, no matter what. 70, I can kind of get.
Especially considering like the circumstances and stuff he has to go through. Like the guy knows like his wife, and he knows that she's probably got like an entourage and different stuff. So yeah, 90-year-old guy probably isn't something you're putting in that situation. In the movie, it's kind of interesting too what his character does. Sometimes we see Clint Eastwood, walking down the street, and he's having a hard time just walking down the street on his own. And then, later in the film, we're supposed to expect, that, hey, Clint Eastwood, 90-year-old Clint Eastwood, is also breaking in a, like, nearly, like, wild horse, a horse that needs to be broken in and stuff. It's like, dude, that's, like, not believable that, we see this person in this one situation, and then this other situation supposed to believe it's the same person.
What are you talking about? When he's on a horse, he's a young man again, Matt. You do anything. He's back to being macho. Yeah, I did. I agree. I know I saw that, and it's like, well, obviously it's a stunt double. The way it's filmed, all backlit and everything, you never clearly see it. It's like, okay, 90-year-old Clint Eastwood is not breaking in a horse. But from a believability standpoint, that was a hard pill to swallow. So that made it less interesting for me to really invest in the character, because I did not believe that this character, as it's portrayed by someone of his age, could really be doing this effectively. Other characters I think are pretty well done. I did like our kind of other star in this was Eduardo. He does a pretty good job. He doesn't want to be with his mom. He knows he's being abused there, but he doesn't really trust anyone. He's never had anyone to trust in his life. So he does a good job with that portrayal. Dwight Yoakam, though, I just could not buy it. It was so bad the entire time. I'm like, man, it seems like someone just owed Dwight Yoakam a favor or something, or he owed someone a favor. I don't know. And so he's in this movie. I'm like, okay. So Eduardo's performance pretty good. Dwight Yoakam's not so good. And Clint Eastwood's performance is fine, but unbelievable.
Yeah, Eduardo, for me, the thing that I was kind of going a bit on his character, though, for a kid that's supposed to have been living on his own for a while on the streets or whatever, I would have, I guess, preferred if it was a little bit more of a hardened character. Granted, he's playing like a 13-year-old, so he's a kid, so, how much is that going to be? But to me, he seemed like I don't know if you want to say hopeful or whatever, but he shines a little bit more than I figured someone, in his circumstances that's basically having to like steal cars and stuff, and fight roosters kind of like to live, and is kind of on the streets and probably bumping into some other rough characters or whatever. I didn't really feel that as much with this character and stuff too. And a lot of times, we would have like just these outbursts and stuff. And granted, he's a kid; he's a 13-year-old kid. It fits, but it's kind of weird how he does pretty good, back and forth with Clint Eastwood, and then when he has his like blow ups, for me, his like little like blow ups were a little bit like cheapened or whatever. Where he just kind of like starts ranting like blah blah blah, you're a liar, all this kind of stuff.
Yes, on that topic, and slightly into small spoiler territory, but it's not that important because the story's there for you, basically. They set up this like subplot with Dwight Yoakam, the father, and how he owns like, I guess he has investments, say, in Mexico, and he wants like his half, and if he has his son, he feels like he'll probably get his half because it's like something to barter with against his his mother. And I thought that was a ridiculously cheap subplot. It was unnecessary. It was like they didn't trust that the plot itself was enough. Oh, we got to put this thing in here so that way that, Clint Eastwood's character and, and this 13-year-old boy can have it out about how they don't trust, oh, you hid that from me. I'm like, the idea of going and essentially kidnapping a kid from Mexico and bringing him back to his father in the United States is already enough. You didn't need that subplot, basically. And what does it add to the film other than a small, minuscule thing? You can that could have just as easily been, Clint Eastwood saying, I've known your father for a long time, and I can't say 100% that he's being truthful even with me. And, there was other ways to deal with that or get past that hump and give them some conflict other than adding we don't trust our own plot, so give it a subplot. I thought that was cheap, and it wasn't helpful for the film. It just something someone felt they needed, I guess.
Yeah, and I will say too that subplot kind of is weakened, I guess, a little bit of my feeling of like the ending too, kind of thing too. Like having that in there, I think does have an impact on how I feel at the end, and I don't know that I fully accept that ending kind of because of that.
Without that subplot, the ending is actually probably a little bit more fulfilling because it's like, okay, the father really does want to be reunited with his son, and there's no malice. It's just this. He's being abused down, by his mom and his mom's, henchmen, basically, and I need to get him out. I need to protect him. And that's a much more interesting thought than just, oh, I need him for leverage. Yay! No, I also need him. Yeah, so the ending is a little bit let down by the fact that they put that in there. I was, again, super disappointed by that. I wish they had left that part out entirely.
I also think like the strength of this movie also could have been a little bit better. To me, I think the strength of the movie is really the back and forth that we have between like Clint Eastwood's character and Eduardo's character and stuff, like the conversations, how they're building, and kind of like the lessons that Clint Eastwood is trying to impart on them. At the same time, too, I think a lot of them could have gone more deeper or whatever, or we could have had like more impactful moments. Instead, I feel like a lot of times we're really just getting Clint Eastwood, saying things to Eduardo. And I don't know if we're really seeing any of those lessons like really hit or take hold. I think generally a lot of the growth that we see in this film are kind of like general, like just kind of like body language and like some things that like our young star is kind of like building and stuff too. I think it could have been a little bit more polished, a little bit more fleshed out, or some things like maybe one or two lessons that are hit on a little bit more harder. That maybe actually adds a little bit more feel to this movie and actually has us care a bit more for these characters.
Yeah, it could have been done. It just could have been done better. Like, if I have conclusions, it's that the movie definitely goes to places that I didn't expect it to go based on the trailer. I thought that we were going to, I don't want to say get a whole bunch more action, but it would be a little bit different than what it was. But simultaneously, I should not be surprised at where it went. I think the plot could have been better. I think some of the choices that were made were not so good. Instead of Clint Eastwood breaking in the horse, which doesn't make any sense, we maybe train Eduardo's character to do the break-in because Clint Eastwood's 90 years old. And that's growth opportunity for the character. So parts of the movie could have worked in ways that helped and they decided not to do it that way.
Yeah, me generally, this film, I think it has, a decent story there. I don't know if it's just not like well executed, whatever it is. There isn't anything that really is going to make me remember this movie. I don't think there's any real lasting impressions and stuff for this movie. I think it's like, an okay Western film. If you have something that you just want to, sit back and, just chill out, watch or whatever, not really have to think about or anything too much. I think it's a movie that's okay for that kind of thing, but anything I think that's really going to stick out for me, or nothing in this film that I'm like, hey, you really got to check this movie out for like A, B, or C.
And that's okay. But you know what? If you've seen this, we want to know what you guys think. Maybe if you're a big Clint Eastwood fan, this is obviously a must-see because it's got Clint Eastwood in it and he directed it. Let us know in the comments below. We also have other new movie reviews, flashback movie reviews, some television series reviews, and some deeper dive discussions on our YouTube page, so be sure to go check those out.
Also, be sure to check out our Facebook page. We got a bunch of posts there, especially stuff on our fandoms. We also post a day before our videos come out to let you know what the topic of our next video is going to be. Our videos come out every Monday and Thursday. For now, I'm Matt, here in Michigan. Have a good day, everyone.
And I'm Randall here in Texas. See everyone next time.
Next time on No Market Media. Please consider checking out some of our other videos.